There are two ways that we can reference data in an Excel spreadsheet. One is by the use of references, and another is by the use of named ranges. First, let's talk in terms of references. There are two types of references that we can work with: a relative reference or an absolute reference. In a relative reference, when you copy or fill a formula from the original cell to another, it changes to indicate the relationship to the formula that the original cell had. Now I know that can sound a little confusing, so let's break it down step by step. I am taking the total for location 1 and copying it to location 2. Notice location 1 is B2 to D2. When I copy this formula down to location 2, the formula changed to be relative to location 2. In other words, I moved down one row, so my formula adjusted itself to go down one row. That's what we refer to as a relative reference. Most of the time we work with relative references. But then there's the absolute reference. When you copy or fill a formula from the original cell to another cell with an absolute reference, the reference does not change. Regardless of what the relationship to the original cell was, it stays the same. So why would we need this? Let's use the example of a percentage of the total. I have calculated that location 1's total is 14% of all locations. Now I wish to apply that same calculation to location 2. I'm simply going to paste in the location to the formula, but you'll notice it comes up with the error message that stands for cannot divide by 0. So why did this happen? Well, it used a relative reference. If you look at the formula, it moved down to row 3 to pick up location 2, but when it came to the total, it also went down a row picking up E9. There is no data in E9. To get around this problem, we use a relative reference. I am going back to the original formula. I would like cell E8 locked into place in this actual formula. That's the job of an absolute reference. I'm going up to the formula bar to E8. I'm simply going to press the F4 key, and you'll notice a $ appears in front of the E and in front of the 8. Now you can type that in if you want to, but it's much quicker to use the F4 key. This is a real good example of how to use function keys in Microsoft Excel, and a perfect question that could appear on the examination. How do I quickly enter absolute references? The answer: by using the F4 function key. Now that I have the absolute reference turned on, I'm going to again copy my formula. Notice this time there was no problem with the reference. It locked cell E8 in place. Each time I copy it now, E8 will be locked in place as an absolute reference. Now in working with formulas, as you could imagine, this can get a little busy on the screen. So there's a second way that we can work with this absolute value. We can utilize the tool that is called a named range. Now named ranges are used for many components. We'll see examples in upcoming movies. In this instance, I'm going to use it in replacement of an absolute reference. I am going to go to our actual total. You will notice in the left-hand corner in the name box that it shows the name of this cell to be E8. Well, I'm going to rename that cell. I'm going to go in and instead type in total and an enter key afterwards to accept my name. It's very important to remember that enter key. I am now going to go to my formula, and instead of using E8, I'm going to use the word total that I just typed in. Notice the formula remains, and notice when I pull down that formula, it stays as an absolute reference. The named range makes it a bit easier to read the formula as long as you understand the definition of that named range under total. The use of named ranges and absolute references are important to the examination. Let's continue with some other components of formulas that you'll need to know.